Trinity Western University Spartans and the number 8 Windsor Lancers. I'm Jared Brown, joined again by Tom McCabe, and first point of the match there goes to the Windsor Lancers. And Tom, we were just chatting before we went on air here how this is Trinity Western become year in, year out, pretty much every year at the tournament, and Windsor first time ever at the tournament.
Yeah, definitely two different sides of the court here. You got one team really just happy to be here and coming away with a big win. An OUA bronze medal game was the Windsor Lancers. Really great performance. You see John Moat there already contributing with the block. He was the OUA leader in total blocks per set as well. 4th in the country in blocks per set. Like we mentioned, Windsor with a big win over Ryerson in 5 sets to clinch a berth here in Hamilton. Meanwhile, you have the Trinity Western Spartans, reigning national gold medalists, who currently find themselves down 3-0.
So a good start for Windsor. They have a bit of a cheering section here, a bit of a contingent who's here in the crowd. And what would the drive be, Tom? Windsor to Hamilton?
Windsor to Hamilton. If I had to guess, I'd say it's about 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
Maybe a little more, a little less. I'm not sure. Only been to Windsor 2 or 3 times. Very close to Detroit.
Yeah, I know you can. I've heard that you can always kind of see Detroit from Windsor type thing, right? But
yeah, if you've got a cannon arm, you could probably throw a football and hit the Motor City.
So interestingly enough, Tom, Eric Lepke not starting in this match for Trinity. It's Ben Lewin who is out there. So it's Elser and Lewin. And you had actually asked me in warm-up that you didn't see Eric Lepke. And I saw him yesterday. I know that he's for sure here, but I looked down at the bench. He is not on the bench. He's not in the warm-up area, and I can't tell if he's sitting on the bench, because they have quite a few staff and stuff, and I can't really see the whole angle, but maybe he's sick. He could maybe have the flu or something and not here, because I don't see him.
Hopefully it wasn't a strategic food poisoning or anything like that. Don't need some Tanya Harding tactics to try to keep him out of this one.
You're saying the Windsor guys bought him dinner last night?
Not saying they didn't. Maybe they put a little something in his coffee at the awards breakfast.
Yeah, so something for us we'll keep an eye on, obviously, and for those, Trinity Western fans and friends of Lepke. I know that I spoke with him yesterday because Lepke is from Steinbach, which is a community just outside of Winnipeg, about 45 minutes. So I've known Eric for years, and he said his family would be here and whatnot. So I'm not too sure. Something we'll try to get an update on. But he's obviously a huge part of their team. But I mean, if any team were be able to miss a starter in a quarterfinal matchup and still roll along, Trinity Western would probably be that team.
Yeah, they have the luxury of having probably top to bottom the most talented roster in the country in most years. But if you want to talk about talented rosters, Windsor Lancers had a heck of a year. Very young program. Apart from John Moat, their main core really 2nd and 3rd year players. So they had a very successful season this year. Obviously, we mentioned their first berth at Nationals, but looking to make a splash against the #1 team in the country.
And had opportunity to watch Windsor practice yesterday as I came by the gym, and I thought they were a pretty physical group. They did some good things. They're a little small at the setter position. Nolan Langley listed at 5'8".
Which I feel maybe a bit generous.
Yeah, I mean he's not a big guy. Athletic, jumps well, but it's the thing with these big outside attackers for Trinity Western, he might have some issues.
Absolutely. Look on the flip side, Adam Schreimer, the 6'7" setter for the Trinity Spartans, definitely helps when your setter can be 6'7". Schreimer, of course, being the recently named USports Player of the Year.
Yeah, Trinity Western is racking those awards up lately. They have follows up last season. Ryan Slater won that award. Ben Ball won previously. But a good start here for Windsor, 8-4. I know in speaking with Coach Josephson, he said, even though this is a 1-8 matchup and, ranked #1 for a good portion of the year and all those great accolades for Trinity Western, he said these guys can play. And, he said he didn't think that they could necessarily stop their offense, right? But he wasn't sure how they would stop theirs. So that's an interesting, way to look at it, right? When you play all those teams all season long, when we've seen what Alberta and UBC can do, and all those great teams in their conference play that they've played against, and he felt that they were just as dangerous as all those teams. So, Elser, great kill there.
Windsor team that's essentially fearless. They don't really put too much thought into who they're playing. They just love to go out, play the game. They play with a lot of passion, a lot of intensity.
So now it's Pearson Nishenko back to serve from Banff, Alberta. Oh, and a great swing there. That will wake Nishenko up a little bit. So Windsor is certainly not, they're not playing, the underdog role to this point, as they've come out here and just been swinging right out of the gates, and they lead 9-6.
Obviously, when you come in, you play the best team in the country. You're hoping you're going to bring your best. They look great so far early on.
Let's say Adam Child, the second-year libero here from Toronto. He's listed at 6'5". He's a mountain of a man out there. He is. He's got to be one of the bigger liberos in the country. But I was watching him at practice yesterday, and he can get up too. He can hit. But they have him playing libero here.
Yeah, he's seen. We got a lift call.
Much to the dismay of the Windsor coaching staff, I didn't think that was too bad, but his back was actually kind of to the referee, so he didn't really get to see a clean view on it. But point goes to Trinity. Now it's 1-point ball game. 9-8, they trail with Schreimer serving. Serve way past the pin. Good job there by Bouchard to keep it alive. So back to Jamie, and the Trinity Western block teams up, but they're going to be called on the net. So interestingly enough, Elser and Howe, former club teammates in Calgary with Canuck, won a national championship, 17U. And now they are here playing together at Trinity Western. Elser's pass goes over the net, and Bouchard with the kill.
Bouchard, the second left side for the Windsor Lancers, loves to be aggressive. Whether he's in system, out of system, he loves swinging hard at the ball. Had a great opportunity there on the party ball.
Now serving again is number 3, Mark Pignot from Windsor, Ontario. Elser, better pass there. Schreimer goes pipe to Lewin, and that attack goes into the net. So Trinity not quite firing on all cylinders yet here early on. They trail 12-8. But Windsor has come out and has put some pressure on Trinity Western here. I guess we're seeing why Coach Josephson said these guys can play.
Absolutely.
Elser, right side swing, goes long. Another point here to the Lancers, 13-8. And interestingly enough, as we see Coach Josephson call timeout, Trinity Western has been in the final, I believe it's something like 7 of the last 9 years or 6 of the last 8 years. And the only 2 times they didn't make the final, they lost to Western.
Really?
Yeah, once in the quarterfinals and once in the semifinal. And now, here playing an OUA team again. And, it's interesting, just obviously totally different teams, right? Different situations altogether. But I know that Coach Josephson, he says like that's kind of their nemesis in a way, right? This Western team. And now here you are, with, you have Windsor. Totally different team, totally different school, obviously, but coming out early, 13-8, making Coach Josephson call timeout. And I think a lot of people probably look at the draw. They see number 1, number 8. That'd be an easy win for Trinity. And I always tell people, you shouldn't have easy wins in nationals, right? The best teams in the country here, we should have close games. And Windsor is coming in here, obviously, with some confidence.
I think if you're Windsor, too, you kind of have that underdog advantage mindset of having, we come in, we got nothing to lose, really. If they lose a game, that's almost just what's expected of them. They move on, still get to play another game, but they're coming out, they're just firing all cylinders.
Big block there on the 3-man close by number 10, Roland Bouchard. And, an interesting line that I heard yesterday. I was watching the March Madness basketball the first night last night, and it was Arizona actually was losing to Buffalo, and they were down by 10. And the announcer made a great point. He said, when you're the underdog at this point of the game in the second half, you expect to be down by 10, right? Like you are kind of comfortable in that situation in a way where, hey, we're down by 10, we're the underdog, we'll kind of battle back. But when you're the favorite, as Arizona was, a big favorite, and you're down by 10, now all of a sudden, it's a totally different scenario, right? Even though it's the same spread both ways, and same kind of thing here, right? If you're Trinity, like definitely they wouldn't have expected to be down 14-9, right? And every error now that you make, it compounds a little bit here. And, as the longer the match goes on, through sets and through the whole match, Windsor, they start to feel more and more confident. They feel more like they belong. And all of a sudden, hey, if they can win this first set, right, hey, we can play with these guys, right? Because there has to be that unknown. When you're from different conferences, right, you hear about them all year and you think, well, how good can they be? They must be a good team. But, now all of a sudden you're playing them and you win. It really changes the mindset.
Absolutely. Both teams kind of trade some missed serves here, but like you mentioned, they haven't really had the opportunity to see each other much all year other than in video sessions. So it's a whole different ballgame, and you actually have to get out on the court. Both teams obviously have to tie up their shoes, come out and play. Rankings don't mean much. It's just going out and executing your game plan.
And that would have been Windsor's point, but the setter Langley was on the net. Uxbridge, Ontario. Where's that, Tom?
That is in around the greater Toronto area.
Okay.
Remember playing Langley in high school a few times, Uxbridge High School.
Okay. Nice pass there by Child. Middle, and it's John Moat. And we're going to go to the timeout. 16-11 is the advantage here for Windsor. And Trinity Western maybe missing Lepke a little bit, right? Maybe just kind of some younger players. Elser only in his first year, Howell only in his first year. Even though this is, this Trinity team, the success they've had, they still are a bit younger. And I think those players, they've played in a lot of big situations, but they've never played in this situation, right? It's something new to them a little bit. I don't think they're playing poorly, but just kind of getting comfortable out there. And be curious to see how this match goes going forward.
Yeah, you come into Trinity Western, obviously that means you can play the game very well, but I think the main thing, especially for some of the younger Trinity players, is you find yourself down 5, you can't go out and try to, come back with one swing or one serve, one block. You are going to have to chip away a little bit, really earn your points and try to get yourself back into the game. Obviously don't want to let yourself go down 1-0. But on the flip side, if you're Windsor, like you mentioned, look at them saying, hey, we're playing right with them. We're able to beat them. Maybe they can just try to get out here, steal one. If they can steal one, why can't they steal 2 or 3 more? Some great display on, especially on the blocking side. One thing I've noticed from Windsor so far, which has really been their bread and butter all year, is the way they can block.
That serve sails long out of the timeout, so we'll see if Trinity Western's able to string a few points together here. As it's Kern who goes back to serve, and we have to make mention of the unique hairstyles here on this Trinity Western squad. A couple guys sporting the retro mullet look. I guess that's kind of the style of the year here for Trinity, as Moat dug up by Bergen. Lewin left side. Dug up by Jemmy. Now it's outside Johnson. And Johnson cross court finds the sideline. Nice swing there by number 7, Pierce Johnson.
Pierce Johnson has been the anchor, the cornerstone, you could almost say, of this Windsor offense all season. Only in his second year. Was an all-rookie last year, first team all-star in the West this year. He was 3rd in the OUA in kills on the season. Definitely their go-to guy, whether it's side out or in system.
Jump float taken there by Antoniuk. Schreimer back to Kern, and Kern out of the back row. Postage stamp right in the top corner. Elser now will check back in. We'll see another one of these mullets here being sported. Not Schreimer though, he's got that customary, that's his trademark hair there, the long.
He's
long
got the
hair.
man bun locked down.
Yeah, he wasn't willing to shave the sides and go for the mullet. Lewin serve taken there by Child. Langley outside, Johnson dug up there by Bergen. Schreimer back set and going to get called there for 2 hits violation. We talked about how Howe and Elser were teammates in club. Schreimer and Bergen, both from the same high school in Winnipeg, MECI. Schreimer 1 year older. Schreimer outside, Elser, and Elser, one of many great first-year players in the country this year. It's kind of tough actually picking that all-rookie team. There was quite a few pretty strong, notable players in Canada West who didn't make the team, who played big roles, and I think just kind of, we're seeing in other sports, right, first-year players coming and having a big impact, and now in volleyball, I think the training in club volleyball, and Elser actually went and spent time with the full-time center last year, elected to forego his grade 12 season of school and club and moved out to be in Gatineau. So, I think players are more prepared to come in and play in their first year. And now we're going to have a timeout. Trinity's closed it to 3. It was the serving sub there, Maddox Greaves, who came in off the bench with a tough serve. And Coach Gravel wants to call timeout here and talk things over, but Windsor still leads by 3, 18-15.
Yeah, a good point you make too there, Jared, just about the youth and the growth that we've seen and the amount of talent we have in Canadian volleyball, specifically at the university level. When you look at the university level, a guy like Eric Lepke came in, started in his first season, and made an immediate impact on a national championship team. And you can also look at guys like Schwanberg and Evans, almost skipping the university experience entirely, and then really playing a huge role with the Canadian national senior team at the World League last year. Lots to be excited about if you're a Canadian volleyball fan. Lots of young talent coming out through the ranks, making immediate impacts, not only in the university level, but internationally as well.
Yeah, I think our sport is in healthy condition, probably as good as it's been in a while as that surf and breathe goes long. But I think there's a lot to be excited about. When you look at some of the physicality of some of our athletes too, right on the international stage. And, the senior team obviously being the Olympics, continue to build off that. And it's not long till that next Olympics comes. It creeps up on you, right? We're only a couple years away from going back to the Olympics. As Schreimer goes up high to get Jackson Howe, and Howe is a 12-footer, which is crazy because he's not the biggest guy here by any means. He's probably the shortest player in the front row right now for Trinity Western. He can just absolutely fly. His twin sister plays with Trinity Western women's team, and his older brother plays University of Winnipeg. So obviously a great volleyball family. And that ball dug up there by Bergen. Schreimer, that ball had a lot of spin on it, but Elser puts it over. Child, goes back there, and that ball goes into the aerial. Oh, I thought that was aerial first, but they're going to say block and then aerial.
That's always a tough call to make for the referees, but he was confident seeing that it did in fact block Trinity first before hitting the antenna. Not much of an argument on the Trinity side.
Yeah, certainly not from Ben Josephson. The players looked a little bit confused, but those are, like you said, it's almost impossible sometimes to tell if it was indeed aerial first or the block first. We have a substitution checking in for Windsor is number 9, Sean Spencer. Spencer's jump float taken there by Bergen, passed up nicely. Schreimer middle to Howe. And that might be the answer here for Trinity Western, get things going, is continue to run that middle. John Mote received some All-Canadian recognition yesterday. He's a big body out there too. They have Mote listed at 6'8".
You mentioned though the jumping ability of Elsa there in the middle.
Oh, and that goes off the head of Howe and into the crowd. 21-17 Windsor.
Pardon me, Howe, not Elser on my last point there.
Yeah, Howe's hands might be, or Howe's mullet might be the best of the group out there.
Definitely.
That one's old school throwback for sure. And
wow.
Oh, that one, he was up there nice and high, and he had that hang on that one. That's a great play. Jackson Howe apparently has some pretty impressive dunks. If you ever get him in a basketball and you'll get to see what he can do. I mean, you're touching 12 feet. I would assume you can throw down a couple pretty impressive jams. But
I hope you could.
Langley to Moat, and that's mishit. Out wide. Moat, long arms though too, right? You take a look, like he's not only a big body, but he's a thicker guy, and has long arms. He can really get up there high to contact that ball.
Really get up high as well.
Again, taken by Johnson. Langley goes back to Moat, and this time a better connection there off the block of Ben Lewin and wide. And we're gonna have another substitution as it's 22-19. Windsor checking in number 5, Josh Rankin, and taking a seat will be Roland Bouchard. So 3-point lead here for the Lancers as they try to take this opening set in our 4th and final quarter of the day. Ben Lewin off the block and down. We said Lewin starting because Eric Lepke we're not sure. Well, I guess we'll see when the teams switch sides. We'll see if he's around. But the crazy thing about that is 2 years ago when Trinity Western won, they had one middle, Lee Goosen, who was really sick and played his way through it. And you see a service ace there from Kern. But they asked him after the game, he didn't even remember playing. Apparently he was so out of it and played through the whole game. So now Trinity, they're clawing back here, right? It's only one point now, 22-21, they're down. And you'd have to think, you don't know for sure, but this the way this first set has gone, if Windsor loses this first set after being up most of the whole time, that would be pretty deflating. Right? You got to think they definitely need this first.
Absolutely.
Moving forward.
It's been a somewhat almost, even without realizing it, Trinity's gone on a 5-2 run here, putting themselves right back, right on the heels of the Windsor Lancers.
But Windsor can play. I think it's fair. Like I said, I think it's easy to assume sometimes. First seed, 8th seed, right? Number 1 in Canada West, number 3 in OUA. You think it's a mismatch, but this Windsor team, they can play. They're capable. They're a physical enough team. And they don't seem to be the least bit intimidated whatsoever by Trinity Western, which is good. We're going to see, interesting, you get a service ace, but now we're going to have a substitution checking in for Trinity, be number 19, Jordan Kozlowski, who's the younger brother of former Trinity Western libero Tyler Kozlowski, who won a national championship here on this very court 2 years ago. Kozlowski will check in. His jump float sails wide. Coach Josephson not pleased with that. And now he's saying, again, he asked him, where did I tell you to serve? And apparently he must have served to the complete wrong spot. And Kozlowski kind of says, oh, my bad. Schreimer outside, Lewin, dug up there by Bouchard, sorry, my mistake. Schreimer, back set. Nice find there to Pearson Ashenko. And one quality that I will say about Trinity Western that I think is, they have obviously some incredible talent, but they really don't seem to get too rattled, right? And that's obviously a sign of a great team, but they just continue to always can push forward, lots of positivity on the court always, and that helps them a lot. As Elser miss on that one, that would have tied the game, and he put the overbump out of bounds. I think he kind of got caught between flushing it and hitting it. And now we have a set point opportunity here for Windsor, 24-22, with the setter, Nolan Langley, on the line. Langley's jump float taken there by Bergen, might have been going out. Back row to Kern, and that ball goes long, and with that, the Lancers take the opening set 25-22 and lead this quarterfinal 1-0.
I think a lot of people not expecting Windsor to come out and put up the fight they did in this first set.
Enterprise is a Canadian leader in strategic communications, public affairs, and public relations. We look inside to uncover the stories and emotional drivers that are key to moving audiences in a digital world.
All right, everybody, welcome back inside the Birds Gymnasium here. After that first set, it was 25-22 for Windsor. And Tom, you got some stats for us here after the first.
Yeah, Windsor hitting a very efficient, a cool 500% in that first set. 13 kills. Trinity Western has 12 kills of their own, but on 24 attempts, percentage just not there. 7 errors compared to just 2 from the Lancers. So seen some real efficient offense on the Windsor side. They also blocked very well, 6 blocks and none for Trinity Western in that first set. So Windsor coming in and giving the #1 team in the country a great push. Put them up 1-0 here.
And I'd be curious, Tom, obviously we could probably find it out, and it's a long way to go. It's only 1 set, but I'd be interested to know how many times the #8 has beaten the #1 in this tournament. I'd be interested to know that stat. I would assume not too often.
I would not either, but
I'm sure it has happened though in the past.
As we've already mentioned, rankings become somewhat irrelevant. They might play a bit of a factor leading into a game, and what you may assume could happen. But of course, like we said, both teams got to go out. They got to compete. Windsor really competing well here early on.
And the interesting thing about this format the last couple of years, right, is the rankings have all changed to a kind of a computer-based system. Right before, a lot of it was voting and whatnot. So things have kind of changed, which, I mean, in a way, it's now very much based on who you've played and who you beat and whatnot. But they're accurate. But sometimes if you haven't played a lot of teams, it doesn't always necessarily reflect things, right? So, before when everything was voting, though, there's obviously tons of opinions in there, and people are voting teams they don't know anything about. So I think this is a much better system, and I like obviously the fact that they're using the conference champions have to be one of the top 6 seeds as well, right? The first year it was had to be top 4 when they did that format, right? And now it's top 6, so it gives a little bit of wiggle room there. If you feel a second-place team in a conference is stronger than a conference winner somewhere else, you can still have them ranked ahead, which is what we're seeing, with those three Canada West teams, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened a couple years ago, so it's good. They're USports always continually tweaking things and trying to find the best possible format. And we see an ace there from Elser, but I think that's part of how you continue to get better, right? Is you don't just think, hey, this is the best format and never change it. I like that they're throwing some ideas out there, and there's talks of moving forward, right? How the berths are all going to be allotted, and just trying to make sure there's the best possible format for the teams here to compete and see who's the national champion. As Elser comes back with another ace. Child made a diving attempt but couldn't come up with it.
Spartans coming out firing here after the first set loss, already up 4-1. Showing a bit more energy, a bit more pep in their step here early on.
Like I said, they've been in a lot of big games, right? Losing 1 set, as much as it's disappointing, I don't think it's going to, they're not going to just go away because they lost 1 set. As Johnson comes out of the back row, Schreimer got a piece, and that discussion that I had yesterday with Coach Joseph, like I said, he expected the match to go 4 or 5 sets. They were very much prepared for that. He thought they would play them very tough. So I don't think there's going to be much panic here. Similar to what we saw last game with Mac, right? Down 2-0. No panic. They just played better as the match went along and ended up, playing their best volleyball in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sets to be victorious.
Exactly. Hopefully, if you're Coach Josephine, hoping that sort of got some of the errors, some of the rust out of the way early in that first set, and now it's time to lock in, play some better volleyball, and try to take the game back over a little bit. Spartans obviously the most offensively talented team statistically in the country, leading the kills not only in kills, not only in assists per set, not only in hitting percentage, but also in points per set, earning an average of 17.1 points a set. A very impressive total.
Oh, somebody doing a quick push-up there, not happy, I guess, with that, losing that point. So 6-2 Trinity Western.
Not to mention the Spartans were 2nd in the country in service aces, only behind UBC Thunderbirds.
Langley outside to Johnson. That tip kept alive there, and Elser comes in to fake the pipe, but then sets it. And the interesting thing about that is, so there's that, it was a pretty viral clip, right? They went a couple of weeks ago and they first did it there, and I think it worked, but you got to think, if you're trying to set the ball, right, did he take away from the set by doing that, right? And obviously ends up setting the ball over the net. Would he have been better off just to come in and, like we said, Coppers did the same thing in that last match. If you're going to hit the pipe, hit it. Oh, a good job there from Lewin to save it. And the ball gets put over the net by Elser. Everybody's here safe. And then Ashenko comes back with the big-time stuff block. Everybody's okay. We're all right. The floor sweepers get out of the way quickly. Good job right on the pursuit there by Ben Lewin.
And the pursuit leading the massive block in the middle. Great hustle leading to some terrific execution on the blocking side of the ball for the Spartans.
Now Kern, jump float again. Taken there. And that ball goes into the net, the attack from Jamie. So an 8-3 advantage, and Windsor will call timeout. Trinity looking a little more in sync in this set. But I think it's fair to say that they didn't gift to Windsor the first set. Like Windsor earned the first set, right? They came out and played well. A couple mistakes from Trinity, but I mean, there's always mistakes. But now here in this one, Trinity's picked up their level of play a little bit, and Windsor's made a couple more unforced errors, and that's resulted in a 5-point lead.
Yeah, we see just almost that hustle, the intangibles, I guess you could say, from Trinity really coming out here. The great hustle play just a few moments ago, right in front of our seat here in the broadcast booth. Great read by Ashenko on the block, but Trinity more just relying on their skill, relying on what's gotten them to this point to help jump out to a bigger lead in this second set. As well, interesting to note, Windsor stuck now in this rotation with Langley in the front row and their second middle behind Moat. Pinio up in the front row.
So Kern will serve again. Spartans lead by 5, 8-3. Johnson with the pass. Langley goes back to him, and he goes off the hand of Schreimer and down. Much needed side out there for the Lancers as they cut back to 4 points. And it'll be the setter, Langley, going back to serve.
Obviously, you mentioned the size of Langley, a bit of a downfall in terms of blocking, but the decision he makes in the middle of rallies, we see a great service ace from him. Really makes some great decisions, especially as the rallies get longer. He loves to go against the flow of the rallies, so whichever way the ball kind of takes him. He loves flicking it back, especially to Jemmy on the right side. Does a great job quarterbacking this very young Windsor offense.
And Langley got the ace there on Lewin. Lewin thought it was out, tried to get out of the way. And it dropped in the corner, but they come back. Nice pass on that one. Then Ashenko gets the kill. Ashenko missed some time earlier in his career with a leg injury, but now has bounced back to full health. And obviously Trinity missing Aaron Betcher, who has missed a big part of the season with injury as well. And that's kind of the crazy thing is, they potentially could win this national quarterfinal with 2 starters not in the lineup. And obviously every team goes through injuries, but Bergen does a good job keeping that one alive. Goes back to the Windsor side. Langley outside, and Jemmy gets the kill. Nice job there by the third-year opposite hitter from Tecumseh, Ontario. 9-6, Spartans lead as Pierce Johnson goes back to serve. Johnson from Chatham, second-year outside hitter. Elser, nice pass. Schreimer, middle. Ashenko. And Ashenko finds the sideline. Earlier in the year, I saw that Ashenko broke the Trinity Western record for highest block touch ever. I think in all records of that nature, and probably for most sports, right? Same with the combines and stuff for NFL and everything. Anything that's speed and power related and all that stuff, they're all going to continually get broken, right? As that goes off the hands. Bouchard with the kill. I mean, it just makes sense, right? All the athletes taller, stronger, faster, everything, right? You could probably make an argument as to why that is. People would tell you it's in the food and the milk and the water and everything, right? Growth hormones or whatever that's being pumped into all the animals, and that could have a big, who knows, that probably has something to do with it. But I think it's a lot of it too, though, is just the training that athletes are receiving, right? So at a younger age, Schreimer dumps that one down, but so they're coming in with that base, right? They're already familiar with the weight room, and when they get to university, they're just continually building off of that. And that's what's leading to all these guys who are just putting up huge numbers at programs all across the country.
The other thing I think going along with the point you make is, these numbers are great. They're continually getting higher and higher, but what I think is the most important is it's great that you can do that in an empty gym when all you're trying to do is jump really high, but can you execute that same height consistently in a game in a fifth set when you're tired? And obviously it's going to go down a bit as wear and tear in the season, but numbers are great. I think it's more important to see if you can really cross those over into a match setting.
And for those guys who are touching 12 feet, where are they hitting the ball, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, if you touch 12 feet and you hit the ball at 9 feet, well, yeah, you're not really doing yourself much favors, right? So that's why I always kind of laugh sometimes when, the net's at 8 feet and we have guys hitting the ball into the net. In theory, it should never, if you're hitting a good, smart shot, it should never happen.
Exactly.
That serve goes into the net, so side out there for the Spartans, and Elser will go back to the line. Elser, another great volleyball family, a couple younger brothers who are strong players as well in the Calgary area. So many, it's a sport that, I think we don't hear about it as much because we don't follow those other sports, right? But volleyball, it seems, if your parents played the game, right, you probably grow up and you get into it yourself. Lewin goes off the hands and down, and there's so many players who, are littered. Their parents played university, their parents played national team, and growing up, it's just something that it's still a bit of a niche sport in that way, right? Where very much there's that culture being created, and I think so often as we see time out here from Windsor, but the players who grew up playing pepper in the backyard, right? They just had an older brother or somebody that introduced them to the game, because a lot of times we don't get that exposure, right? We don't, if say we play soccer or basketball or hockey kind of starting 2, 3, 4 years old. The volleyball, there isn't a lot of organized volleyball at that age, right? So it's getting better over the years, but just that little bit of experience of playing with somebody in your family gives them that base and then the excitement for it. And it's amazing what that can do for them moving forward into the game and those early reps. But I think all these great things that are initiatives that are being taken in the country, it just players are starting younger and younger. And I always say, like, players now in grade 8 are doing what we used to do in high school.
Yeah.
Like that evolution of the game, and obviously now university teams are doing what the national teams did, right? And then the international level, they're doing things, they're constantly finding ways to reinvent the game, and then it all filters down, and that's how everybody becomes to become a better sport.
Yeah, definitely not, like you mentioned. You're not seeing a ton of volleyball on TV compared to the amount of exposure you see of professional hockey, professional basketball,
right,
baseball, whatever it may be. So obviously, it is a sport where you kind of get brought into it by a relative or a friend or something like that. I know personally I was brought into it from my older brother.
Sure.
And absolutely fell in love with the game at a really early age.
And that's why these weekends are so important, right? Is that we have the access, the ability for all the young volleyball players in the country to see this level and watch it all weekend long and be inspired by, wanting to be a future Windsor Lancer or future Trinity Western Spartan, as that ball goes off the block. Oh, and they're going to say off the block and in.
Referee seeming a bit unsure on that one. Put both his hands up before he kind of finally made
he was doing that new dance there. He was kind of going back and forth a couple times. I think it was in though, so at the end of the day, he got the right call. Bouchard, tough serve, outside, Lewin, power tip.
And just going back to what you're talking about, Jared, of seeing players play at this level in weekends like this and being inspired. I can just remember, a little personal anecdote. In 2012 when Queens hosted, I grew up in Kingston. I was at the final. I remember watching Ben Ball, who's now an assistant coach with the Trinity Western Spartans, and that was the first time I just watched a setter play and thought, wow, that just looks like he's having so much fun. And he just played so loose out there and was one of the main guys who really inspired me to want to be a setter when I got older, and I eventually did. Had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. You have to have that vision, somebody you're aspiring to be, right? Who's your role model in the game? Who are you looking up to? And I see them. There's been so many young athletes here today already, right? We've seen here watching that hopefully they leave and get something out of that, as Schreimer's going to get called over the net. Obviously that ball, when it's on top of the net, both sides have the opportunity to go and get it, but the referee felt that one had fully crossed over the net onto the Windsor side.
Nice little 4-1 run for the Windsor Lancers here, bringing them back within 3 points.
Lewin, nice pass. Schreimer back to Kern. Kern cross court. And we're going to go into the technical timeout. 16-12 Trinity Western. So a strong start to the set, but Windsor have battled back and now have closed the gap to 4. Let's see what they're able to do after the technical. But it looks like we could be heading towards one set apiece. Never seen some the Guitar Hero cam. Are you going to get up on there?
Not much of a Guitar Hero
No?
player myself,
Okay.
unfortunately. Never had the dexterity. The orange button always threw me off.
So you get a couple, obviously you can't see it on the screen here, but good in-game promotion here from the MAC staff. Oh, they're doing all kinds of spins and everything here. That's great.
Big advantage of having the nice new Litson family scoreboard here in the Burge gym.
Yeah, that scoreboard is awesome. The ability to show replays and obviously for little promos like this, it's a nice feature. Oh, he's using the Trinity Western. I think that's a Trinity Western fan using the fathead, I guess. Is that what those things are called?
I think so.
Yep.
I think it might be a Windsor fan. I'm not sure which
Yeah, okay.
player it is. He's got his head upside down.
It's upside down. It's hard to tell. So here we go after the timeout. 16-12. Trinity Western leads. 4-point advantage. It was Windsor who won the first, 25-22. The winner of this match will advance to face the number 5 seed, Master Marauders, who were victorious over Montreal. And after the timeout, it's Pierce Johnson getting aced off that serve from Kern.
Pierce Johnson often a serving target. That is one of the downfalls in his game is serve receive, and he often becomes the target for the opposing team serve.
So Kern, again, another tough serve, kind of handcuffs Johnson again. And then that ball hit under the net by Giemi, and that was a pretty tough ball to swing on. It was set from way across, and Windsor players, I think, taking that the right way, having a bit of a laugh about it.
On one hand, got to admire the ambition going up, swinging 100% on that one, but also maybe got to recognize when the set's there and when it's not.
Nice force there to the middle. Nice find. Number 3, Mark Pignot. 18-13. Windsor trailing as back to serve is Nolan Langley. Langley serve, clips the tape, passed up there by Lewin. Schreimer piped to Elser, and that ball was going out, but Bouchard tried to get out of the way, and it clipped him in the shoulder. And that's part of it, right, is sometimes just serving and hitting so hard that the other team can't get out of the way. It's not necessarily that they're trying to dig it, it hits them.
It's like an ultra fast game of dodgeball out there,
Yeah,
and it's
that's right, good point.
coming a lot harder when you're trying to keep it up than get out of the ways.
Need to practice dodging more wrenches and more balls, I guess.
Bouchard is able to dodge that one as that serve goes long.
So 19-14, Pierce Johnson, back to serve. Tough float serve, but handled by Elser. Middle to Ashenko, and Ashenko continues to paint that sideline. And we're gonna have a substitution checking in here for the Spartans is number 4, Maddox Greaves. Greaves saw some action in the first set. Of course, he's the son of former national team setter Kent Greaves from Calgary. There's a handful of Alberta players on this Trinity Western roster, and he goes after that one. We saw him go with the jump float in the first set, went after the real aggressive spin serve there. And I remember coaching against Maddox when he was 16U with Canuck, and him having one of the best spin serves I've ever seen from a 16-year-old. I mean, he could really hammer it when he was out there serving, and went after that one, but it went into the net.
That one almost looked like it was going to rake through the net a little bit. Definitely had good solid heat behind it.
I wonder if that's ever happened. I wonder if someone served so hard that they ripped a hole in the net.
Be like in the Sandlot when Benny rips the cover off the baseball.
That's right. Or Mighty Ducks when they serve it right through the net, right? Hit a slap shot right through the net. I mean, you have to think, like, at some point, not in a brand new net, but
an older one.
Yeah, like it's had to have happened,
yeah,
right?
it must have given way at some point.
You get those old junior high gyms where they have a big hole in the middle and somebody hits it through the hole.
Dead ball.
Oh, and that's the receive of Windsor breaking down here a little bit. I think that float serve is just getting on them a lot faster than they think, right? And there kind of just seems to be some miscommunication here on some of those balls. It's now a 7-point advantage, 22-15. Another pass off the net. Jamie staying down on this one after what happened the last time. Schreimer goes up high, and that's going to be a ball handling violation. 2 hits. I think it was going over the net. He did a good job to try to get up there, and obviously with some of that that height that he has. He has the ability to play those balls up there, but couldn't quite corral that one.
Yeah, I see him just play it almost a little too softly, trying to shoot it all the way to the outside.
Elser with the pass outside to Kern, and Kern finds the hands and down. Kern didn't see, his third season eligibility here now with Trinity Western. Didn't see a ton of playing time in his first 2 years with, Slater, Shearhorn, and then Lepke came in last year. He saw some spot duty, but now playing a much bigger role here in his third season, and I think he's doing quite well as Elser kind of fakes the spin serve and goes to the float serve, but it's Johnson coming out of the back row who connects on the pipe side out Windsor.
Apart from the C ball with Brad Jemmy, Windsor won't run a ton of the pipe attack unless it is with Pierce Johnson. Really like to try to find him wherever he is on the floor. You see there a nice pipe attack coming through out of the back row.
That serve sails long. We now have 24-17 set point here for the Spartans. And it's Jackson Howe who will go back to the line. Howe's float serve. Not a great pass there from Child, but Johnson's going to take a swing on it, and he finds the corner. That's a good lesson there for young players of why I always try to, promote. If you can, get up in the air, jump, and hit a shot, right? And if he just puts that free ball over, I'm sure Trinity Western passes it. That one there kind of handcuffs Howe a little bit, falls in for the kill. Still a long way back to tie it, but you never know. We got to start with one. As Bergen's pass, they go to a Shanko, and Johnson got a piece, but not enough, and the ball goes into the Trinity Western cheering section. And we're now tied one set apiece. 25-18, Trinity takes the second, as the teams will switch sides, and we will get ready for the third set. We'll quickly step aside and be back with you after this.
Enterprise is a Canadian leader in strategic communications, public affairs, and public relations. We look inside to uncover the stories and emotional drivers that are key to moving audiences in a digital world. Look inside.
Welcome back inside the Burge Gymnasium here in Hamilton, Ontario. We're tied one set apiece in our fourth quarterfinal of the day. And Tom, give us the rundown here after 2 sets on the stats.
We mentioned how in the first set, Trinity not able to hit as efficiently as they've done all year. 7 errors on 24 attempts, only hitting 208. Came back, responded well, I would say, hitting 857.
Wow.
Overall in that second set. Really doing a much better job, limiting themselves to only 1 error. Whereas on the Windsor side, only able to get 9 kills, down from 13 in the first. But Trinity Western really showing a better effort on the defensive side of the ball, I thought. You see there a nice block to start off the third set.
857, that's pretty impressive.
13 for 14 with 1 error, so much more efficient.
I feel like you'll win most sets if you hit 857. It's a good clip. It'll be hard to replicate again here in this set. Langley, middle to Moat. Bergen, nice dig. Kern off the net. Schreimer puts it over. Good scramble play there by the Spartans. Langley, middle to Moat again. And Howe with the blocks. So that's 2 stuff blocks for Howe to start this third set.
Really been impressed by Jackson Howe's the first time I've really got to see Trinity play apart just from highlight clips this year. And boy, Howe can, like you mentioned, he can get up there. He reads extremely well in the middle on the block. Yeah, for his size, definitely been undersized as a middle, but makes up for it with his leaping ability.
Yeah, they have him listed as 6'5", which would be right on that cusp of probably, being too short, for him to be a middle player. But obviously, like you said, that leaping ability, he has some pretty long arms as well, which, all these qualities of being a great volleyball player. But he's very quick along the net, which helps, and he can do that. But, oh, that one just missed, so he'll want that one back. It's amazing how many balls throughout the course of the day, we've been doing 4 games now today, right? It's our 4th quarterfinal. How many balls are literally like 1 tile in or out, right? When you think about how many tiles there are on the court, and it's just literally like every time, one right on that line.
Yeah,
how many close calls there are.
Hats off to our linesmen we've had today. They've had to make a few close calls, and it is tough. I know you see within the international game, we've started seeing video replays similar to what you have almost in tennis, where they can have it down to the exact centimeter of where that ball landed. And don't have that luxury here, so all the pressure lands on the eyes of our linesmen here. But
yeah, and the ball's just moving so fast. Like, it's not that you're not watching or paying attention. It's just literally, some of these guys, the pace they're putting this ball at. Johnson takes that ball, might have been going out, and that ball goes off the top of the head of Howe, but kept alive. And Schreimer goes quickly outside to Elser and hits that one wide.
I think with, having the video replay internationally, you sometimes see balls that almost somewhat clearly look out of bounds that end up actually clipping the back line, end up being in, a point for whichever team it's in favor of. But here, you don't have that, of course, so it is just up to that quick judgment, like you said, in some balls that could technically be in if you really looked at it or called out. But
that was an interesting way to score the point there. The ball was put over the net, so Elser, instead of attacking, he just went up to block it, and there was nowhere for the Windsor player to put it, and side out for Trinity Western. But yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things I took away from the last Olympics and watching all the reviews and the challenges and whatnot is that it's just impossible to ref volleyball, right? Like, the ball is so fast on those judgment calls, there's going to be misses. And when you consider a lot of times at our level here, like they said, they don't have the video review, sometimes only have maybe 2 linesmen or no linesmen at all. You got to just chalk it up as a coach and a player that it's impossible to see every single touch and line call, and you hope that it evens out throughout the course of the match, and there's really no use getting upset about it.
Yeah, it definitely adds a human element to the game. That not everything is going to be perfect. Mistakes may be made. It's really hard unless it's a blatant error, mistake by the referee, that you just kind of have to roll with it. You have to move on to the next point. And, all he asks is that they just try to be fairly consistent throughout the match.
For sure. I think the referees and linesmen are doing a great job here so far today. You said it's a long day for everybody involved, right? I think they've had different officials up and down for every game, which is good that no one's doing 2. But some of these linesmen have done multiple games, and that's a grind sometimes when you're doing some of these long matches and rally after rally.
Absolutely.
Oh, that ball goes out of bounds, and when you think about it, right, a linesman, you're not quite involved in the play all the time, right? You don't get called upon all the time, whereas the head referee, you're blowing the whistle, you're kind of always thinking. as a linesman, you got to kind of be ready at any moment's notice.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, and it's tough to be staying focused. Like, you have to be just as focused as the players for the whole match. So it's mentally grinding on them too.
Almost the ever-present anticipation factor that goes into being a linesman.
I know I had this experience doing lines years ago, and you end up getting caught watching the play, right? It's so hard to not watch the play if you like the sport. So it's tough to just kind of sit back there and watch those lines. And yeah, I think they've been doing a great job. So 7-4. Spartans leading. That's an easy one for the gentleman in the lines on that one there. That one was out on the basketball court, so 7-5.
I like that serve, though. Tosses it with, the appearance almost of a float serve, but then he kind of has that option to either take it off, have it be a float serve, try to put more trouble, or put more some top spin on it, go with the traditional spin serve.
Kern mishits that one. So back-to-back errors from Kern. Close to a 1-point gap here with the setter Langley going back to the line. It's funny how these two teams are kind of just colors-wise and look-wise are kind of almost mirror images of each other, right? Trinity Western doesn't have as much gold as they used to. Their uniforms used to be a little more gold as Bergen and Schreimer try to chase that one down, but both Adidas, right? Kind of pretty much the exact same colors. It's like a home and away version of each other playing.
Yeah, no kidding. I like the collared look, too, to the Trinity Western jersey. You don't see that much, especially in Ontario.
Yeah, that's kind of a bit of a throwback look there, I think, with especially the contrasting color. That serve from Langley goes into the net. It's nice, just for volleyball. Like, I think everybody involved in volleyball, more and more volleyball-specific jerseys now, right? They used to be, right? It was kind of a lot of times, you just order a soccer jersey or something, get a T-shirt, and the fabrics and everything's being used. It's just so much better now for our guys who are playing. Free ball coming here. Jemmy maybe still a little bit gun shy after that one last set there. We hit it under the net. Lewin looking for the hands, doesn't find them. We're tied up at 8.
The Spartans really kind of allowing the Lancers to get their way back into this one. There's some careless mistakes.
Yeah, I think the first set, Windsor earned it. This one here, we're tied 8-8. This has been a bit more of Trinity's errors, I think, that have keeping Windsor in it. That one almost hit the basketball hoop. That's pushed way up here. Windsor bench wanted a ball handling violation, doesn't get it, but they get the stuff blocked. So I'd rather have the stuff blocked than the ball handling violation. Pad those stats there, right?
Absolutely. Coach Joe Smith not seeming too worried, just trying to encourage his players, keep chipping away here. 1 point at a time, obviously.
Tough serve there from Pierce Johnson, and then it's Giammi. Big time put back. It's now a 10-8 advantage for Windsor. And Johnson again will put the tough float serve into play. Oh, and Lewin did a good job to get that one, and on the 60 run there, Pearson and Shenko. It's always kind of fun when you come to this tournament, Tom, just kind of predicting the long term, right, of where these athletes can go to, their senior team potential, pro potential. And I'd have to think Shenko would be somebody that would have an opportunity to continue playing once his career here is done with Trinity Western.
Yeah, absolutely. Already had some international experience. I know with the junior national team a few times. Jackson Howe, how about that for showing what you can do? Yeah,
you want to put that one on the highlight reel there probably. That was a big block. We're going to have a substitution now checking in. Number 11, Demi Alalade. 6'5", second-year middle from Windsor. So I guess not liking that lack of block on that play. Maybe just changing things up a little bit here. And a big cut shot there from Bouchard, but it's kept alive. And now Kern out of the back row finds the hands and down. And that's the interesting thing, right, about this team where, all good teams, but just specific in this match where you kind of couple errors, and all of a sudden you just have 3 huge plays in a row. Right now you're back up by 1 point, and so a good composed group, and that comes with the winning, right? The success they had. As that swing hit long, no touch. Windsor thought they caught a piece of the block there.
We see Coach Gravel take a timeout for Lance. I think going back to the point you made that it's almost like it seems Trinity Western can just sort of, turn it on out of nowhere, make some big plays, and get their way back into it. It almost seems to be a characteristic you see a lot. I always would see it in OVA tournaments. Just the best team comes in, might be their first match of the tournament, first of the day, and they're playing a much lower-seeded team, and they just sort of think that they're going to be able to cruise their way through, which on the national stage, obviously isn't the case with Windsor stealing the first set. So, big credit to Windsor Lancers for coming out and just competing right from the first whistle. But if you're Trinity, you just got to realize that every team at this tournament really has earned their way here, and you got to bring it against every team. The competition is going to be fierce whoever you play.
Absolutely. Every team in this tournament beat somebody to get here, right? That's the thing, whether it be Windsor beating Ryerson to get here, UBC beating Winnipeg in that third place game, or winning your conference, whatever the path was to get here, somebody won a game to get here. There's no, Mac would have been the one with being the host, but they won their conference, right?
Yep.
So there's nobody here who has just been gifted a berth. Everybody here has earned it, and that's what we've seen with some good plays throughout the course of the day. And I think those earlier matches, UNB and Queens, I think as the match went on, UNB kind of found their footing a little bit. They sort of ran out of time, and UBC, I think, played very well. Queens, though, that match should have went to a fifth set. Really, after being down 2-0, that could have went to 5. I think they kind of lost their mojo a little bit the fourth. So, every game today, that Mac Montreal game could have gone either way, up 2-0 Montreal. And this one here, Windsor's playing well. So I think it's good for the tournament. Good first day. Oh, and nice diving bump set out there by Child. And then Lewin. Oh, that ball, I think, called in. I think that everybody on the line here.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Coach Corbell showing with his hands just by how far he thought that ball was out.
It looked out from here, for sure. But called out. And once it's called out, obviously there's not much more that can be done.
Plays right back to our earlier conversation, but wishing we had some ball technology. Obviously the referee, with the potential, should he see clearly that he thought the ball was out, does have the ability to overrule his line judge, but trusting the line judge's call on that one.
And ironically enough, most of the Windsor supporters are on that end line, right? So on both sides, so they all kind of had that view there. But the serve goes long.
Another ball don't lie chant raining down, similar to the one we heard in the McMaster Montreal game.
I need to explain to those gentlemen in the stands why the ball doesn't lie. Can't lie. Ben Lewin, no doubt about that one, though, comes back cross court and gets the kill. So 15-11, we're 1 point away from the technical timeout here with the setter Schreimer going back to serve.
Talking about players with potential to keep playing after the university career, Adam Schreimer, one of the prime examples in this tournament.
Yeah, I would think he, in his 5th season, right, has been looking to play pro next year, obviously, and will be exploring those avenues. And then, with the senior team, the national team, would be curious to see where he slots in their big picture plans. And obviously, TJ Sanders still kind of part of moving forward. And TJ, somebody I know fairly well. He played here at Mac, played here at Manitoba, and actually coached with our club with 204 in Winnipeg the 1 year he was there. So great to see what he's done. But setter, it's always kind of an interesting position, right? Because you only really have 2 on the team sometimes, and there isn't always necessarily a spot for those guys, right? If you have 2 really good guys, sometimes who kind of gets pushed out or whatnot. Brett Walsh still kind of hanging around. Kedarakis was with sort of the B team, the Fisher team in the summer, and it'd be interesting to see the next kind of cycle where things all sort of slot in with Olympic qualification and how it all kind of fits together.
I think the other point on the flip side of that too is it's a tough spot because you really only have 2 setters, maybe 3 max on a team, but when you can find a good setter, the longer you have them, the better that connection with your offense is going to be. You have a guy like TJ Sanders who's done an incredible job with the national team, so I think we can really expect to see him for a few years. If you look back, Dustin Schneider seemed to be with that national team for close how I would guess roughly 10 years from the first time I started watching the national team play.
Yeah, it would have been pretty much almost a 10-year run, and literally his body just essentially just broke down and gave out on him, you know, a couple months short of the Olympics, you know, which is really unfortunate because he was such a big part of that team for so long. And you know, Dustin's somebody I know really well, played against him in school, and you know, coached against him, and yeah, you feel kind of unfortunate for those athletes, right? Like, been part of that process all the way through, but I think he's happy now and post volleyball life without playing. It's that pass from Elser. They go back to Lewin, and it's going to be so interesting there. They switched the blockers around as they moved Bouchard to block Kern, and trying to maybe kind of line things up there, but Schreimer does a good job still finding the mismatch and going to Lewin, but he hits the ball into the net. So see if they do that switch again. They will. See if he goes back to Lewin, and he does. And he makes him pay. So, you know, when I watched the team's practice yesterday, Tom, I thought that would be something that would be a bit of a mismatch issue, right, for Windsor, with Langley, you know, being a bit of a smaller player. But I haven't noticed it a ton, to be honest, tonight. It hasn't really seemed to be a huge issue. Yeah,
they do a good job of you sort of juxtaposing, you could say, Langley with John Moat, sort of their smallest blocker, and then obviously one of the better blockers in the province of Ontario, together to kind of help compensate for the lack of height as Langley goes up with a nice little attack on that. But got to give a lot of credit too for Schreimer. You get to nationals, you get deeper into the season, sometimes these game plans become more and more complex, but I like the simplicity of just recognizing the pure mismatch and just going right back to it. It didn't work the first time, but they go right back to it. They're able to get a kill on the mismatch there, so sometimes you just got to keep it simple.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you'll see that a lot of times in basketball, for example, right? We have a guard somehow gets mismatched with, you know, down low with a big center, and they don't go to it, right? Because it's not the number one option. Well, hey, it doesn't matter if that guy, it's a huge mismatch in your favor. Take advantage of it, right? And most times there at that front row with Kern and Howe in the front row, they might not necessarily set Lewin, right? But hey, this is to our advantage. We should take advantage of that. And they said that's why they ran it twice in a row, and it paid off in the second time with the kill.
And we've mentioned a few times throughout the games we've done together today that, you know, volleyball, you're separated by a net. It's not a sport where you can really get that physical with each other. But I think when you have mismatches like that and you can really expose them, that's the one time you can kind of impose your will just on another player. You can just go right up and say, I'm bigger than you, I jump higher, and I'm going to be stronger and bigger here. There's not much you can do about it. So a good example there from Schreimer, just continuing to go right after Langley whenever he's in the front row.
Schreimer bumps it outside to Elser, and Elser clips the end line.
Schreimer's so good at wherever the ball ends up and wherever he needs to set the ball from. He gets there and he's stopped and stable, whether it's with his arms and he's bump setting, or also does a very good job of just getting his forehead directly underneath that ball. He's straight up and down. So technically smooth, really fun to watch him set the ball.
Yeah, and he's, you know, trying to do something that not many have done, and that's in the Nationals 3 years in a row as a starting setter. Oh, cross court, Kern buries that one. And now coming in once again, Maddox Greaves. So Greaves part of this Calgary Canuck connection. You have Elser, Howe, Greaves, all teammates on that same team. Not really too shocking that they won Nationals together as a group.
Impressive. One club team can graduate 3 players into one of the better volleyball programs in the country.
Oh, and Greaves' serve not quite firing on all cylinders here today. Came in, hit a really good first serve in the first set, right? And then hasn't been able to find the same groove here.
And that's a bit of a side effect that can come with being a serving substitution. You might not always be ready. Baseball's got the bullpen. Pitchers can throw as many pitches as they want to get ready and be ready to come in the game. But
yeah, there's no real practice serves in volleyball. Sitting on the bench there, you can't go behind those black curtains and hit a couple practices before you come in. So 21-15 after that side out. Now it's Kern back to serve. Seeing on the stats here from Trinity, a pretty balanced attack, right? Only one player in double digits, but couple guys at 9, 7, 6. I mean, it's pretty well spread out.
Definitely speaks to the versatility of their offensive attack that is really one of the best in the country, if not the best offense in the country through their regular season. I mean, you're looking at a team that from November to February, they didn't lose a game, winning 15 in a row.
Yeah, that streak was ended by UBC when those two teams split in their series. They did the home and home series there. Kern slipped trying to get that one and see if he's okay. I think just looks a little bit shaken up here, but
I know that can be a big disadvantage. You were saying in the earlier game, sweat really sticks to the sport court surface, and it's a surface that already can be kind of tough on your knees, on your ankles. Doesn't have much give to it, really.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the sport court's over top of the hardwood here as Zashenko finds a kill. But for those athletes who play on a hard, if you're playing in a tournament where it's just over concrete, they really feel it in their joints after a couple days. So here shouldn't be as bad as far as with the hardwood underneath. But it's a nice look to obviously to have the sport court here. Blocks out all the other non-volleyball lines, right?
Absolutely.
Makes things a little bit easier to see. Team up block there, Lou and Zashenko. Now 6-point advantage, 23-17 with Elser serving again as we are getting close to Trinity Western taking a 2-1 lead.
I think I've really been most impressed personally just by the play of the middles on Trinity Western. Their blocking has been spectacular, and just how quickly they can release. See a great serve painting in the back corner there. Just going back to what I was saying, how quickly they can, go up for a block, come down, get themselves back to the attack line, still have time for a full approach. And obviously Schreimer doing a great job being able to find them in transition, but just be able to get in the air. It's really a thankless job a lot of the time being a middle blocker. You're blocking on nearly every attack from the opposing team, and then you're also expected to sort of run every time. If you're not in the air on attack, there's sort of, no potential to fake out the other middle, I guess you could say, and it all kind of revolves around you. It all depends on you being on time. The Trinity Western middle is just so disciplined in everything they do. So that will do it for this third set here. Trinity Western will take a 2-1 lead, taking that one 25-18. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back for some more action from Hamilton.
Rock and steady.
Enterprise is a Canadian leader in strategic communications, public affairs, and public relations. We look inside to uncover the stories and emotional drivers that are key to moving audiences in a digital world. Look inside.
Alrighty, welcome back into the Burge Gymnasium here at beautiful McMaster University. My name is Tom McCabe, currently awaiting my partner in arms, Jared, who's just out for a quick moment here in our last quarterfinal matchup of the day between the #1 ranked Trinity Western Spartans, leading 2-1 over the 8th seeded Windsor Lancers, who took the first set off of the Spartans by a score of 25-22. 25-18 has been the score of the last two. Both have gone in favor of the Spartans, as OUA West All-Star Pierce Johnson starts it off with an ace. His first ace of the match. Johnson again trying to go back to position 5, finds it just a bit wide of the court. Player of the year Adam Schreimer will go back to serve. So Spartans in the second set hit an unbelievable percentage, 857. Dropped that down to 280 in the third. 7 errors compared to 14 kills, I'm sorry. Still able to come away with the win. That one's kept alive by Bouchard. Flying it with the back bump set to Jemmy. We're going quick to the right side. Great kill there by Jacob Kern. There you are, partner.
Yeah, it's in between third and fourth sets here. It just gets to me here. I disappear.
There's a broadcaster black hole that seems to swallow you up for a couple moments, but
I'm back.
I was just telling our viewers at home how the Spartans' percentage then dropped again in terms of their offensive efficiency.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to go up from that third set, right?
Yeah. They dropped down to 280, but on the Windsor side, they hit in the negatives, -154. Only 4 kills compared to 8 errors. And another thing really sticking out just on the stat sheets we're looking at is Trinity Western out-digging Windsor 24-9, getting a lot more second chance opportunities from playing some solid defense. Elser wasn't able to get out of the way of that one.
So 3-2. Windsor is trailing, and it'll be Alalade who will serve.
Alalade, a player who was really in and out of the starting lineup for the Windsor Lancers all year. When I talked to their coach, he said he's still kind of refining his skills in the game of volleyball a little bit, but he's been very solid in the chances he has got with Windsor all year.
Yeah, he's one of, I think, 4 local Windsor players on this roster as I look at the roster here. And that's obviously really important, right, is to have that connection to the hometown, players. What club would be kind of close to Windsor there?
I know a fair amount of them would go down and play for there's the Chatham Ballhawks, and okay. I can see the jerseys of their team. I know, for example, Matt Pepinito, one of the liberos for Windsor, but it's slipping my tongue. I'll try to do some research in the timeout and remember it.
You'll figure it out. You see Lewin with the dig off the soft block, and then it's Elser who just goes off the hands and into the stands. It's amazing, the top programs in sports, right, where you can graduate players, and we saw it with Mac, right, all those familiar faces. And, guys step in, and just playing against those guys every single day, how much benefit that is. And you have a player like Lewin here who, Lewin getting the start today because we haven't been able to figure out why, but Lepke is not available today. He's not on the bench. He's not in the warm-up area, so we're guessing that he's sick. Likely maybe back at the hotel or whatnot. We don't think it's an injury because he was practicing yesterday. So, just how much benefit that has to come in, and then, guys just learn as they go, right? You have these 2 first-year guys right now, and Howe and Elser out there, and they just pick up on the culture and the way the game is supposed to be played as Kern gets the block on that one there.
Riverside.
Riverside
is the club in Windsor.
Okay. There we go.
It was close. I knew it had something to do with being on the water down in Windsor. I was trying to, I knew it wasn't Lakeside. Lakeside's based out of Toronto.
Yep.
Riverside, there we go.
Lewin went after that one, but it goes into the net. I just remember back to, when my coaching at U of M, when there was a year where Alberta, they graduated almost their whole team, right? And the next year, they were still a really good team. They ended up making all the way to the final. And, you kind of just think, like, how did they do that? And the guys that were had on the bench almost outplayed those guys from the year before, right? But just that battle every single day, and that's ultimately where your biggest contact point is, right? Is that practice, and especially you practice so much and for so long in university, the amount of practices compared to games. So even though you don't get to play as much in the games, you're going up against the best team every single day at practice. You have the benefit. Nobody benefits more than those guys who are on your B side on these strong programs.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So the other teams and coaches might not think know a lot about some of those guys, but they come out there and they play great. As I always say, depth is really only important in a match if you're not playing well.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you think about it, one game a day here, right? You don't need a ton of depth unless there's an injury or somebody isn't playing well. But in practice, obviously, you need to have that group of guys pushing each other all the time. And that's what we're seeing with some of these top programs.
Yeah, and even Alberta this year, you mentioned in the past they've had some good roster turnover, but even this year they've turned over 5 starters from last year's team that was one of the best in the country, and they still are able to make the Can West final with a different lineup. Still back here at Nationals again.
You see 4 hits violation. Yeah, and I think you look at UBC as well, right? I mean, if you're thinking of the teams who qualified for tomorrow, UBC finished 4th last year, right, and returned the entire team, and then still have 2 new starters this year. Like you have to have that where you're constantly kind of battling with guys, and even though they might not necessarily be starting, we don't know how close those battles are at practice as Elser power tips that ball down. You look at Mac today, right? Ireland came in to play a role and ends up playing the end of the match and played really well for them. Like if you don't have that contribution, they might not win that match, right?
Absolutely. Always.
And wouldn't be shocked if Passlin started again tomorrow, right? Like that's usually how things work.
Oh, yeah.
And now either way, Coach Preston, he has 2 good options he can go to in that position. He feels confident in both guys. Kern, jump float, taken there by Child, pass tight, and that ball is, kind of a wacky rally here.
Going back to the point you just made quickly about practice, Jared, had a lot of coaches who always used to say to us, practice is the time for work and games should be fun.
Right.
By the time you get to a game, you go out, you play, you're carefree, you know what you have to do, but in practice, that's when you really have to know how to compete, learn how to just work and get better on every single touch, learning, whether it's through failure, through repetition. And a lot of these great programs, like you said, they have top to bottom some great talent on their roster, and everyone sort of knows that hopefully eventually they get their turn, and
for sure,
just about taking advantage of that opportunity. And we see that from a lot of good programs who turn over their rosters year to year and continue to be so dominant nationally.
Yeah, and I think that's the big key, right? Like you said, is practice so hard that games are almost easier than practices sometimes, right? Where you don't have to think too much, just go and play. So 10-6, start of the timeout. Kern will serve. Kern's younger brother, one of the top 18U setters in the country. He'll be heading to Alberta next year. Oh, nice diving save there from Kern. A one-handed set from Schreimer, and Elser puts it down with the left hand.
Well, getting a little ambidextrous out here.
I coach a player right now that he'll do that a lot. Ball set a little bit too far, and he hits it with his left hand, and obviously not as effective, not as much pace as with the right, but he can still put a decent swing on it. And so you imagine if you could train all your players to do that, how hard it would be to defend and to block if you had a guy just going up and hitting with both hands.
Yeah, do a little fake with the right, come through.
Yeah, that's
come
right.
Through with the left, it'd be impossible to stop. But it's funny, I know we really a lot have been comparing volleyball with other sports, but you think about basketball, you're taught to use both hands. You have to be comfortable using both. It's funny how volleyball, you just kind of pick the one that's natural to you. Obviously, it's a coordination issue, I think, more than anything, but perhaps there could be some players who start developing the ability to kind of attack with both hands somewhat.
Nice scramble rally there from Windsor. Kept alive and then finished by Jimmy out of the back row. 11-8. Trinity still leading here in this 4th set. Reminder, the winner of this team will play in the semifinals tomorrow against the host, McMaster Marauders. And both of these teams will have their hands full. If Mac can play the way they did in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sets, and honestly, I mean, the way they played in the second was a pretty high level too, right? Just lost things a little bit at the end on that serving run as Lashenko gets the block. And if Mac plays that same way, I expect even bigger crowd tomorrow, right? As on a Saturday night, being in the semifinal, just even more of a draw. It was a big crowd for the quarters, but it's going to be a hostile environment here. Not an easy match for either of these teams.
No, absolutely. And if today's atmosphere is any indication of what we're going to get the rest of the weekend for Marauder games, and obviously now going to the semifinal, they've guaranteed the chance to play for a medal at least. Just going to end up seeing what color they're going to be playing for. But if that was any indication, I think Mac's going to have a real strong advantage, almost like an 8th player apart from their starting 7 that they're going to put out there. So,
no, I'd agree with that for sure. Coach Gravel is going to call his second and final timeout, his team trailing 13-8. And I think, you know, Trinity has kind of just imposed their will a little bit as this match has gone on, right? I don't think Windsor has played that poorly, really. I think they've played well. A bit of a drop-off. They really executed attack-wise. Like, if you look at the stats, like I said, 500 in that first set. A minus efficiency in the third is not great, but Trinity kind of just flexed their muscles a little bit here and started to overpower Windsor a bit.
Yeah, I think that also somewhat can speak to some adjustments made by Trinity Western. I was almost shocked how calm Coach Josephson looked after that first set loss. None of them seemed rattled at all. They obviously knew they were going to have to work for their wins at a tournament like this, but they were able to make some good adjustments and really overall just come out and execute what they do best. They've been gotten back to hitting really efficiently, as we've seen in these later 2 sets, playing some really, really good defense, serving well.
You know, it's amazing how the top programs in all sports, right, but how they almost like plan for the disaster, right? Like, you know, they focus so much on the things that could go wrong, so that when they do, you're prepared for it, and you know, the guys don't panic too much. And like I said, I had that conversation with Coach Josephson yesterday. He's talking about how, you know, we expect it to be a 4 or 5 set game. Like, I think it's going to be a really hard win for us, and you know, you kind of put yourself in that mindset before the game even happens, so then when you do lose the first set, you're thinking, okay, we expected that, right? We thought Windsor would come out and play really hard, and Windsor earned that first set. And Trinity has bounced back, but after the timeout, a couple points in a row here for the Lancers, and they're certainly not going away here at all.
Definitely still within striking distance for sure.
Langley, jump float again, and that one goes long.
Windsor, a team that really, battled really well throughout the OUA regular season. They beat Western 3-2. Western obviously ended up being second place to the McMaster Marauders in the Western Conference. They had that big win against Ryerson 3-2 in the bronze medal game, and not to mention when they played Ryerson in the regular season in Toronto, they pushed Ryerson to 5th set and had a very competitive game with them. I was really impressed with what I saw, really impressed with what I've seen through them throughout the season.
So I guess kind of from my perspective, like, and you could give some insight, obviously being from Ontario, but kind of the buzz was sort of, everybody knew Mac would be here because they're the host, but expected to be a strong team as well. And then, Ryerson, Waterloo were kind of sort of the team's queens a little bit, but like Western was a bit of a surprise, is that right? Like, to be second, was that a bit of a unexpected?
Sure. Western obviously wouldn't say it was a surprise. They were a very veteran-heavy team.
Right.
And they had a very good showing. They ended up beating McMaster 3-1 actually. So a team that really showed they could compete with anyone in the league. They just not sure what sort of happened. Queens just came out and absolutely blew them away. They had a really good offensive game, and said just the energy they brought to that game carried them through. But Western definitely a team that, people weren't expecting to, I think, do as well as they did. They've had mainly that same crew, and that's what we talked about. You have a setter, Matt Hooker, who's in his 5th year there.
Yep. Fourth year. Yeah, Matt's a 204 guy, so I know Matt really well.
Yeah, yep. So being there for 4 years, a lot of the hitters, whether it's Ziad Hamada was one of their big left sides, developing those connections over 4 years, and they really had it all polished for this year. And one of the better seasons they've had in a few years, but definitely. And then on the east side, Ryerson was a team who looked really, really strong, a team that battled a lot of adversity going through the year. And if you ask them, it was a disappointing finish in the bronze medal game, losing to this Windsor squad, but they had a great season, had some really great moments, definitely highlighted by beating McMaster in the season opener.
Yeah, it's just interesting, obviously, depending what part of the country you live in, right? The different things you hear and buzz you hear about teams and whatnot. And I got to see Ryerson at Christmas. They came to the UW tournament. I saw Western there as well, so I got to see both teams. And Windsor, didn't hear a lot about Windsor throughout the course of the year, right? They weren't, you didn't see them ranked in the top 10 and whatnot and results, but I got to say they've come in here and they've really competed. Like I've been impressed with the way they've played. It's looking like Trinity is inching towards maybe a 3-set-1 victory here, but still a ways to go, and Windsor still battling here for every single point.
And I noticed on the Windsor side, a lot of them speak very highly of playing for Coach James Gravel, and a few other players I've sort of played with in the past and just know through the volleyball community have all spoken very highly of playing for him, not only just from him as a coach, but really just as a guy to be around, whether in the locker room, on a bus, something like that. Really fun guy, easygoing, and obviously done a great job with this Windsor program.
Well, I think you don't ever want to take silver linings and losses, right? You don't want to kind of think of it that way, but when you look at their roster here, they have one fifth-year, right? And he's listed as libero, Josh Rankin, so he came in and did serving sub, right? But not playing libero today, no other fifth years, and doesn't necessarily mean everybody returns, obviously, every year, but I think for them, a great experience here, obviously, to gain here at Nationals, and hopefully moves them forward into next year, and they can try to get back to the tournament next year, which is in Laval. And depending how things go, right, obviously, like I said, looking at maybe evaluating that format, right, if Matt could medal, that would make for a second OUA team next year in the Val, and I would think they'd be one of the teams in the OUA, certainly would be right near the top, battling with those teams to get back to Nationals next season. So it's a really valuable learning experience, I think, for sure. And you know what, in seeing the guys and stuff, and yesterday at the banquet and watching the games earlier, I think they're really enjoying being here, right? I think they're really taking it all in, and just having a great weekend, and kind of playing with that same way, like, hey, we're just going to come and play as hard as we can and gain some valuable experience from this, and hopefully we become better off for it.
And why not? You come down. They came down for the Final Four a few weekends ago.
Yeah.
Got to get used to playing in this gym. They were able to earn their way to come back. And of course, like you said, you get to go to the banquet. You get to. It's like being a kid. You never get sick of hanging out in the hotel with your team.
No, absolutely, and ultimately, those are part of the whole process too, right? Is that time spent together. Obviously, the time on the court's really valuable, but the in-between time is in being a part of these programs is things that really mean a lot as you go through the year.
Absolutely.
Lewin's serve goes into the net, so we're certainly not writing Windsor off here. I mean, they're down 5 points, but they have the ability to come back and string a couple points together and try to force this to a fifth set. But it is Trinity who leads 2-1 right now at the moment. And they are trying to advance to tomorrow's semifinal against the host McMaster Marauders. Tough serve taken there by Ulster to go back to him one-on-one, and nice dig there by the libero Pepinito. And they go back to Ulster again, and that power wipe comes back to the Spartan side. Schreimer this time goes middle to Howe, and Pepinito with another dig, and then it's the setter, Langley, with the dump, and that gets the Windsor fans up on their feet, and now it's just a 4-point ball game.
First time we've seen some offensive aggression there from the setter Langley on the Windsor side. Picking a good time to pull that one out of his tool bag.
19-15, Trinity leads in this fourth set. Jemmy's serve, taken there by Ulster, passed off the net. Schreimer goes back to Kern, and Kern tries to wipe. Bergen chases it down, goes into the Windsor section there, but unable to come up with it. And now Coach Josephson will call timeout. So like I said, we certainly weren't writing Windsor off. They've still got some fight left in them here, and they've closed it to a 3-point ball game, 19-16.
Yeah, pulled within striking distance here. Some good serving there, especially from Jemmy in the last few points, able to make life a little more uncomfortable for the Spartans, make their offense just a bit more predictable.
Yeah, I think that set there was just a little bit too tight, and Kern tried to do something with it, but there really wasn't anywhere to go. Good job by the Windsor block to put up a wall on that one.
But obviously, if you are the Spartans, you still got a bit of a lead under your belt.
Yeah, I always like referencing, and something that I think is really good for athletes is, guys, let's not think about Windsor scoring 4 points in a row, right? Let's think about if we're up 2-1 in the national quarterfinal, it's 19-16 in that fourth set, we feel great. It doesn't matter how we got to this point. If we would always feel comfortable in that situation, right? We're up 3 points, so don't worry about it, right? Take a breather, get a side out here 20-16, and you're totally in control of this match, right? Good job there, slowing it down. Pebenito comes in, high ball outside to Jemmy. And Bergen, great dig. Schreimer to Elser, off the top of the hand. Oh, they're going to call the Windsor block on the net. And I got to say, very interesting. I really thought there'd be a mismatch with Trinity's left sides. And obviously, Lepke not playing changes the matchups a little bit, but with the setter Langley out there blocking, only listed as 5'8". Definitely giving up some size to some of these left sides, but he has more than held his own out there. He hasn't been a liability at all, really, against these Trinity attackers. Schreimer with the dig. Lewin outside to Elser, and that one carved sharp cross court. Finds the sideline. Oh, great tune here, a little Wang Chung. I bought Wang Chung's coming to Winnipeg, bought tickets.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I just play that song on repeat for a couple hours.
DJ Jukebox, cue up some more Wang Chung. Bump set outside. And Lewin kind of stepping in front of Howe. So side out there for the Lancers.
Lancers doing a good job not allowing Trinity to go on a final run here. Keeping within striking distance.
And that jump float into the net. And obviously down here, late stages of the set, they're going to need to convert on some of those balls if they have any chance of coming back here. Curran serve goes long, so Windsor will take that one, but they got to string together a couple in a row here if they want to come back in this fourth set and try to extend it to a fifth. Down 22-18 and down 2-1. Lewin, nice pass. Schreimer, back row, Kern. And again, trying to find that mismatch, right? They're moving Langley over there with the front row setter and Schreimer. Trying to get a bigger block on Elser here. So Schreimer trying to exploit it, but Kern unable to come up with the kill. And it's now closed to just a 3-point gap. But again, the serve into the net. And if you're Windsor here, you're just kind of running out of time for those types of mistakes.
Yeah, and those errors really starting to add up. 2 service errors in the last 4 or 5 points here, putting Trinity within 2 points of taking the match.
Elser brings the heat on that one, passed up by Child. Langley outside, Johnson kept alive. Child's gonna, come all the way back to Jemmy. Great set. And Bergen diving dig, Schreimer back row, Kern. And Kern off the block and down. And we now have a match point opportunity here for the Spartans. Lost the first set, but have battled back to take the second and third. And now are 1 point away, and we're seeing the customary one finger in the air here for the Spartans, signifying 1 more point. Elser, passed up by Child. Langley, back row. Giammi dug up there by Elser. Schreimer on the run. Kern, back row, and he's blocked there by Alalade. So Windsor still showing some fight here. With the setter, Langley going back to serve. They're going to need 4 in a row to try to tie this thing up at 24. Some people already heading for the exits here. They're not having much faith. Langley serve, taken there by Elser. Schreimer, middle to Ashenko, and that will do it. Trinity Western takes this quarterfinal 3-1 and advances to face the McMaster Marauders. And we have officially semifinal rematches from 2017. The exact same 4 teams will compete against each other. UBC and Alberta will go first, and McMaster and Trinity will go second. Looking forward to what should be some great volleyball tomorrow, Tom. It's been a good day today.
Absolutely. If today is any indicator of what we're in for the rest of the weekend, I'm definitely really excited. Be great. We'll see you tomorrow for some more USports volleyball action. Thanks for joining.